You enjoyed your day so far?
Yeah, I got to see my sister for the first time in like 20 years.
Hey everybody, you're watching Geek This Week, and today I'm here with one of the producers for the Geekwave, Brogan. And today we're going to be bringing you all the geeky news on
CD Projekt Red.
The first real-life Proto-Saber.
And Hobbiton comes to the US.
All on Geek This Week.
This week in gaming, Steam has officially released its Best of 2019 list. The lists include top sellers, top new releases, top selling VR, top early access graduates, and of course, the most played games of 2019. We ended up with 12 platinum games, including Destiny 2 and the game of the year, Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. We were a little surprised to find that The Witcher: Wild Hunt didn't make platinum game of the year, given the overwhelming amount of attention the game got because of the Netflix series that just came out. Notably, Halo: The Master Chief Collection made gold as well, which was quite impressive as it was released only 50 days before the end of the year. Skyrim VR and Fallout 4 VR platinumed in the top-selling VR games. In Best Early Access Grads, Beat Saber ended up taking the trophy, which was surprising because we didn't know Beat Saber was still in early access. At the end of the day though, the game that we are most glad made the platinum list was They Are Billions, which is a phenomenal game that we absolutely recommend trying at least once. In the most played games, we have the big multiplayer games like PUBG, Destiny 2, Warframe, Halo, Dota 2, CSGO, GTA 5, and Rainbow Six for over 100,000 simultaneous players. And of course, Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice made the list, as well as Total War, of all things. And of course, there are far more games on those lists than we could possibly fit into this video, so please go check out the list for yourselves because there are plenty of fantastic games to try.
CD Projekt Red has come to an agreement with the author of the Witcher book series, Andrzej Sapkowski. We don't have any details on what this means for the game developers in terms of new content, but it's pretty much a guarantee that though Geralt's story is over, they will continue to make more games in that world, universe, multiverse? We'll just say the Witcher IP. CDPR announced it on their website, saying that the agreement satisfies and fully clarifies the needs and expectations of both parties, past and present, and sets out a framework for the future cooperation of both sides. Sapkowski is getting a ton of attention for his creation because of the very popular game series and the now very popular and successful Witcher Netflix series that has been confirmed for Season 2, by the way. So it'll be awesome to see where CDPR is going next. Though we'll certainly have to wait for a while as Cyberpunk 2077 is yet to come out, and I assume we'll probably have a couple years of DLC for that. But after that, more Witcher.
So apparently, real lightsabers are a thing now. Well, the Proto-Saber is a real thing now, the Proto-Saber being a precursor to the actual lightsaber. A bit confusing, I know. The Hacksmith on YouTube successfully created the world's first Proto-Saber. It is absurdly dangerous and certainly not considered a practical weapon. That being said, it is pretty freaking awesome. The unfortunate reality behind making a lightsaber is it's pretty improbable, mostly because of the power needed to, well, you know, power the lightsaber. Luckily, according to Star Wars lore, the lightsaber did have a predecessor called the Proto-Saber, which Jedi had to wear a power pack in order to use. That's right, they had to pack 35 pounds of battery into a backpack just to power the Proto-Saber that ended up sending out 450 amps, which most likely means death for anyone who gets hit by it. The best part about this whole project is that the plans they used to make the circuit are actually available on maker.io. So, if you want to have... Yes. You can go find the plans yourself, and given you have the right abilities, you could make one yourself. If you don't consider yourself the technical type, you could always just go watch the video, which is still pretty fascinating. And of course, the link is going to be down in the description.
This week in technology, the City of Angels has released their plans to reach zero emissions by 2028. The mayor of LA, Eric Garcetti, says the plan is to decrease pollution in the air by 25% by 2028. And a big part of that is making the public transportation and ride-sharing companies 100% electric. They might even end up being the first city in the US to have a fully electric fire engine. Mayor Garcetti acknowledged the trouble with getting ride-sharing services to be fully EV though, as most drivers do drive their own vehicle. Uber does seem to be on board with making everything EV though, and in London, they have plans to make every car on Uber electric by 2025. Going fully electric in only 8 years is super ambitious, but it's good to see that cities are becoming more ambitious about lowering emissions. Now, if only we could get all that ambition to come to Utah so that we can breathe during the winter.
Unfortunately, the Boeing Starliner capsule that was destined for the ISS couldn't reach the height it needed to make dock with the space station. The capsule was carrying 600 pounds of cargo, made to be a test for carrying human weight into space later this year. Unfortunately, the capsule's onboard clock lost track of time and made the engines fire incorrectly, meaning the capsule never made it high enough to get into orbit. Boeing assured that this was in no way life-threatening to anyone that may have been on board, and Jim Bridenstine, a NASA administrator, said that if the capsule had had passengers, they likely would have taken control and corrected the malfunction anyway. Astronaut Nicole Mann, who is currently planned to be on the first crewed mission of the Starliner, agreed with the sentiment, ensuring that they've trained extensively for this exact type of contingency, and that there would have been action they could have taken to complete the mission. Boeing has regardless considered this a huge success, as the launch itself was flawless, and the capsule landed safely in the New Mexico desert. There was unfortunately a downside to the failure though. The cargo that was on board that wasn't delivered to the ISS had presents, clothes, and food for the astronauts on the station. Luckily, since the Starliner is made to be reusable, it's already getting repaired and outfitted for another launch later this year.
This week in science, NASA has revealed the 2020 Mars rover, and it's dope as hell. The Mars 2020 mission aims to not only search for traces of life on the red planet, but also start paving the way for manned missions as well. According to Deputy Mission Leader Matt Wallace, the new rover will be carrying a bunch of instruments to help with the understanding of geological and chemical context of the Martian surface. The rover will host 23 cameras, 2 ears to listen to the Martian winds, and lasers for chemical analysis. The rover is really slow, only covering around 200 yards per Martian day, which is pretty similar to an Earth day. So we're really lucky that there's no traffic on Mars. The rover will also have a mini nuclear reactor, which will power 2 7-foot articulated arms to drill and crack open rocks for samples. The samples will then be sealed in tubes and discarded for future missions to collect. NASA hopes to move really quick and make that future trip to Mars in 2026 to pick up all the samples that Mars 2020 will have collected and hopefully have the samples back to Earth by the end of the next decade. Here's to 2030, guys. There's a huge overview on what Mars 2020 hopes to accomplish with their mission on nasa.gov, so we'll have a link to that below as well. But it's awesome, you guys should totally check it out.
In other news this week, good news for US residents, especially if you are near or on the East Coast. Fans of the J.R.R. Tolkien Lord of the Rings series will be happy to know that a man by the name of Mike Parrish, living in North Carolina, is building his very own Hobbit hole bed and breakfast. Parrish is a self-proclaimed geek of all things Lord of the Rings, and since he happened to be sitting on a pocket of land, he decided that building the 800 square foot, 1-bed, 1-bath dwelling to transport families to the world of Middle-earth for a night or two was clearly the supreme use of this land. When it's finished, the hovel will host the iconic circular doors and the main door, designed to be nearly identical to Bilbo Baggins' own domain. Parrish is still working on the project, and we don't have any word just yet on how much it'll cost, but you can bet that when those doors finally open, there's going to be one heck of a waiting list.
Well, that's all from Geek this week today, everyone. I wanted to thank our lovely guest Brogan for coming onto the show. And I was curious what you thought of today's episode.
You know, Talon, I thought it was a very quaint episode, very different pacing, and I think it worked very well. I enjoyed this format.
Yeah.
You know, I think one key point that I really enjoyed was the last point we brought up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm somewhat of a Tolkien fan, and hearing that Hobbiton was making its way to the US it pricks my heart a little bit. It warms my soul.
It will be interesting. I would love to see how much it's going to cost when it's finished and maybe make a trip down there myself.
You know, I might have to do the same. Utah's a ways from North Carolina, but it may very well be worth the trek.
It's a beautiful state. Maybe we'll go together sometime.
Maybe we will.
Well, that's all from us. Thank everyone for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe down below, and we'll see you all next week.
Care for a cup of tea, my friend?
Certainly.